Ezekiel saw something that should never have been revealed, a vision so disturbing, so enigmatic that for centuries it was silenced, ignored, and now finally it is being understood. He didn't just see symbols, he saw the future. Wheels that turned within wheels, celestial creatures covered with eyes that observed everything, and a divine glory that abandoned the most sacred place on earth. This is not a metaphor. This is not a legend. It is recorded in the Holy Scriptures, and the signs of its fulfillment are exploding right before our eyes, while the world turns a blind eye. In this video, you will understand why Ezekiel's forgotten prophecy is unfolding today as a silent warning that something gigantic is about to happen. A judgment that, in the past, destroyed Jerusalem and that may now be about to reach the entire world. The pieces are already falling into place: spiritual crisis, wars, global manipulation, and the falling away from God's glory, all exactly as he saw it. Thousands of years ago, we are facing a prophetic repetition, but few can understand. The majority are still asleep, anesthetized by daily chaos and spiritual blindness. But whoever has ears needs to hear, because Ezekiel didn't just see destruction, he also saw hope, an invisible mark, a divine seal reserved for those who remain firm even when everything seems to fall apart. Get ready for a journey into a forbidden prophecy that could be coming true right now before your eyes. Watch until the end, because what will be revealed here could completely change your view of the world, of the time we are living in, and of the destiny of humanity. Subscribe to the channel now, activate the bell, and may God bless you with discernment and truth. Let's get started. The call under the ashes, the prophet who arose in the midst of chaos. It all started when the heavens closed over Jerusalem. The sound of the harps had ceased. The voices of praise fell silent. The temple, the pride of an entire nation, was now just a memory. The chosen people humiliated, dragged in chains to foreign lands, exiles, forgotten, lost among the ashes of a sacred history that seemed to have been completely erased. And it was in this desolate scenario that something unbelievable happened. In the midst of the Babylonian mud, amidst tears and chains, a voice was raised. A voice that came not from a throne nor from an altar, but from a broken man, crushed by the pain of his people. His name was Ezekiel. He was just a priest without a temple, without an altar, without a place to exercise his faith. And yet he was called, not with trumpets, not with parties, but with a vision that ripped through the skies like fire in a dark night, a sight that would make any man fall to his knees. Imagine yourself surrounded by enemy soldiers with your people enslaved, when suddenly the sky opens and you see a firestorm approaching, spinning with wheels within wheels, as if they were celestial mechanisms, indescribable to the human mind. And in the center, 4 beings enveloped in flames with eyes that saw everything, a glory so intense that not even the angels seemed to be able to bear it. But this was not just a spiritual vision. Many scholars today attempt to rationalize what Ezekiel saw as divine technology, something that challenges the limits of human understanding. A chariot of fire, a throne that floated, beings that moved in sync with the wheels that never deviated. It was as if the sky was materializing before him, but the most disturbing thing was not what he saw, but what he heard. The glory of God was leaving the temple, leaving, moving away from humanity. What did this mean? That judgment had been decreed, that the people had crossed the limit, and God no longer lived there. This image of glory rising and falling away is perhaps the most painful in all of Scripture. Ezekiel was chosen to see what no one wanted to see, to say what no one wanted to hear. And more than that, to record a prophecy that for centuries remained hidden, ignored, considered too difficult or too mysterious to be preached. But today, the signs of that prophecy are reappearing, because the same pattern is being repeated. Humanity is in rebellion again. The cities are full of idolatry, violence, pride. And once again, God's presence is moving away. Do you notice? The cycle is closing. Ezekiel's call was not just for that generation, it was a warning for all. Future generations, including ours. What if I told you that the same chariot of fire that Ezekiel saw is about to return, and that this time she does not come to announce an exile, but a final judgment? What would you do with this information? Would you ignore it as so many did? Or would you open your eyes and start looking for answers before it's too late? That was just the beginning, the call under the ashes. But the real revelation is yet to come. The wheels of fire and the beings with burning eyes, the contact that nobody wanted to explain. Imagine trying to describe the indescribable, giving form to something that goes beyond logic, that defies all human understanding. This is exactly what Ezekiel faced when he saw, before his eyes, a manifestation that did not seem of this world. It wasn't a dream, it wasn't a metaphor, nor a fable created by religious minds. It was real. He saw, and he recorded it in detail. What he witnessed was not just a spiritual vision, it was contact with a superior intelligence, a parallel reality that tore the veil of the invisible and revealed itself in a spectacle of fire, light, and power. He described a throne floating on wheels within wheels, turning without deviating, accompanied by beings that moved like lightning. Beings with 4 faces, man, lion, ox, and eagle, and wings that trembled when they beat. Below them, structures with eyes on all sides, as if nothing could escape their surveillance. And the most surprising thing, the movements were simultaneous, synchronized with impossible perfection. Everything moved as if it were a single being or a single machine. But how can we explain this using the language of 2 millennia ago? How can you express something so advanced, so incomprehensible with human words? Many called him crazy, others silenced their reports. For centuries, his writings were treated as prophetic poetry, never as literal description. But what if we are wrong? What if Ezekiel wasn't exaggerating or imagining? What if what he saw was, in fact, contact with the supernatural, or with something that science itself still refuses to name? Most disturbingly, similar records have begun to reappear. Not on ancient scrolls, but on radar screens, on satellites, in space cameras. In recent months, mysterious images have begun to circulate among experts. Phenomena in the heavens that perfectly imitate Ezekiel's description. Luminous structures rotating in concentric circles with intense brightness. And movements impossible for any human aircraft. Structures that appear and disappear, that they observe in silence. Coincidence? Collective imagination? Or the return of what he saw that night? Now reflect with me. Why would the same vision be repeated today? Why, after 2 millennia, would the heavens open again with such similar signs? The answer may lie in the message behind the phenomenon. Because what Ezekiel witnessed wasn't just a spectacle, it was a warning. That celestial chariot announced judgment change, separation between those who hear and those who ignore. It was the beginning of the end for an era, and the prelude to something new but deeply frightening. The prophecy has not died. She didn't stay in the past. She is alive and is being fulfilled now. But once again, few are seeing it, few are discerning. Because just as before, the eyes of the world remain closed. The difference is that now, the signs are not just in visions, they are in the skies, in the news, in disasters, in spiritual collapses. Ezekiel was a witness. Today you can be different. The question is, will you see what is in front of your eyes, or will you turn away, as so many have done in the past? The sky is speaking, and the vision has returned. And if she came back, it's because something is about to happen. The invisible wall, the coming judgment. Ezekiel's vision was not just a heavenly spectacle to shock or awe. It did not come as curiosity, nor as a coded message for scholars of the future. It came as judgment. It came as a warning. It was as if the sky itself was screaming, something is deeply wrong. And what was wrong was the hearts of the people. God showed Ezekiel that the altars were corrupt, that the priests no longer sought him, that the people had exchanged the truth for illusions, faith had been sold, worship contaminated, and in the place of God's presence, idols were erected, visible and invisible. But is that in the past, or are we reproducing the same scenario, just with new names, new faces, new forms? Because when we look around us today, what do we see? We see a world steeped in violence. We see nations building walls, not of stone, but of ego, of pride, of idolatry. Idols not carved in wood, but in canvas, in vanity, in money, in fame. The cult of the eye replaced the fear of the eternal. The truth became an object of negotiation, and faith became Sunday entertainment. We are once again facing a spiritual collapse. But this time, it's not just one city that's in danger, it's the entire planet. The judgment that Ezekiel saw approaching Jerusalem, with the glory of God receding, with the angels sealing those who would be spared, is slowly unfolding before our eyes. And almost no one is paying attention, because this judgment does not come like an immediate thunderclap. He arrives like a shadow, a fog that slowly spreads, an invisible wall that rises little by little, separating those who hear the truth from those who reject it, separating those who still cry over sin from those who have become accustomed to it. Have you ever felt this separation? Have you noticed how things are changing at an accelerated pace, as if we are being pushed towards a destiny from which we cannot escape? The crises don't stop. Corruption explodes. Wars are no longer just for territory, but for ideology, for control, for the soul. It's as if we are being tested. One last test before the door closes completely. And the scary thing is that many are feeling safe, as if nothing was happening, as if this prophetic judgment was just symbolic. But Ezekiel saw those who trusted in the temple, in the leaders, in the traditions, and they were still destroyed. Because God's judgment does not respect facades. He goes to the depths, to the truth that is hidden in the heart. The invisible wall is being built now. One side is being sealed for preservation, the other to destruction. But there is a choice. There always is. This prophecy came not only to announce the end, but to prepare those who want to resist until the last day. Those who still manage to cry over corruption, who still feel pain in the face of injustice, who still seek the presence of God, even in the midst of chaos. For these there is a mark, an invisible seal, a protection that no army can overthrow. Judgment approaches, the shadow is moving, and time is running out. The question is, which side of the invisible wall will you be on when God's silence is broken by his justice? The secret marking, the hidden sign in the faithful. In the midst of chaos, when everything seemed to fall apart and the glory of God was receding, a new order was given. A silent order, almost whispered, but with enough power to define the destiny of an entire generation. God calls a messenger and says, "Go through the middle of the city and mark with a sign those who weep and groan because of the abominations committed in it." This mark was not made with paint. It was not visible to the naked eye. It was a spiritual separation, an invisible distinction between those who still felt the pain of corruption and those who had already surrendered to it. Ezekiel watched in silence. He saw the seal placed one by one on those who were broken-hearted, those who still cared, those who hadn't sold out, those who cried, not for personal interests, but for the glory of God that was being forgotten. And then came the harshest revelation. Everyone who did not have this mark would be judged, not for appearance, not by position, but by inner choice. Judgment would not begin with the wicked, but with those who were in the house of God. The separation was being made, and there was no way to deceive the one who saw the inside. But what now? Centuries later, at this exact moment, in a world taken by polarization, manipulated narratives, religions of convenience and spirituality without truth, is this mark still being placed? The answer is more disturbing than you might think, because yes, she is. Only this time, there is no open vision, no visible angels. Everything happens in silence, in decisions, in postures, in internal resistances that few realize. Today, the brand is spiritual. And no, it has nothing to do with technology, microchips, tattoos, or human systems. It goes much further than that. It is a mark on the spirit, visible only in the invisible realm. And the criteria remains the same. It is placed on those who still feel pain for sin, in those who are still bothered by lies, injustice, disrespect for the presence of God, in those who even without strength still bend their knees and say, "Lord, don't let me be swallowed by this system." Can you feel it? A restlessness that grows within you when you see the world moving away from the truth. When do you realize that faith is being used as a stage, that many speak in the name of God, but no longer represent Him? This restlessness could be a sign that your spirit is still alive and that you are among those being sealed. But be careful, the brand does not come from emotion, come by decision. It comes through posture amid pressure, for loyalty even when no one is watching, because the time for deception has arrived. And it does not present itself as evil, but as false light, as beautiful speech, as comfortable religion. Many will be seduced, many will think they are saved, when in fact they are just entertained. But the sealed ones, those will be preserved, not on merit, but sincerely, for repentance, for resisting the spiritual anesthesia that is taking over the world. Ezekiel saw this happen before his eyes. Now, it's happening in front of our eyes, and it's no coincidence, it's prophecy. The mark is being placed right now. The question is, what does God see when He looks inside you? Are you crying over the abominations, or have you gotten used to them? The departing glory. When God decides to leave nothing, is scarier than God's silence. Not the silence that comes from waiting, but that which comes from departure, from abandonment. And that is exactly what Ezekiel saw, something no prophet had ever seen before. It was not a sudden destruction, nor a devastating war. It was something even more terrifying. The glory was gone. The divine presence that once inhabited the Holy of Holies between the cherubim in the heart of the temple rose, looked one last time at the place where so many prayers were said, and left. She left. She abandoned Jerusalem, and in that moment everything was lost. There was no screaming, there was no thunder, only sacred retreat, like a father who closes the door and leaves without saying goodbye. And that, more than any judgment or plague, was the true punishment. Because what protects a nation, a home, a life, are not human structures or strategies, it's the presence. And when she's gone, there's nothing left but announced ruins. Today, perhaps we are experiencing the same phenomenon. But this time, not with prophetic eyes open, nor with visions recorded on parchment. It's happening little by little, almost imperceptibly. The presence of God is moving away. And the most dangerous? Many are not even noticing. Because we continue with the rituals, we continued with the songs, with the speeches, with the temples full. But something changed. There is a void in the air, an absence that echoes between the words, a silence between services, crowded churches, but empty of glory. Ezekiel's prophecy is now being fulfilled. The departing glory is not an act of anger but of pain. It is the divine response to a generation that has forgotten what is essential, who exchanged intimacy for performance, who replaced regret with applause, who lost his fear, and with it he also lost his shelter. And just as in Jerusalem, it will not be the enemy that will destroy the temple, but the absence of the presence that sustained it. Do you feel this? Have you ever walked into places where everything seems right, but the spirit screams that something is wrong? Have you ever heard words that are well constructed, but that don't pierce the soul? Have you ever participated in supposedly spiritual moments, but left empty, as if God had never been there? These are the signs, small signs of a progressive withdrawal, of a glory that is leaving without fanfare. But why? Because God does not force permanence where there is no reverence. He does not dwell where there is no truth. It does not remain where it was replaced. And today he is asking us, do you still want me, or do you just want the benefits of my presence? Time is running out. And when the glory leaves, everything that comes after is a consequence, not punishment. Consequence. But there is still a chance. And that is why this message is being revealed again, because the same God who withdrew is the God who can return. The key? Repentance, brokenness, real desire for presence, not for applause. Living faith, pure fire. Time doesn't stop, but the heart can be rekindled. The door is still ajar, but not for long. Jerusalem only understood when it was too late. Don't repeat the mistake. Come back while there's still time. Seek the presence before it leaves for good, because when the glory is gone, all that's left is dust, memory, and late regret. The clock didn't stop. It is ringing, and the sound you hear now is the last call. The valley of dry bones, hope that rises from the impossible when everything seemed lost. When silence was already echoing like a sentence and the heavens were closed, God did something unexpected. Ezekiel was taken in spirit to a place where no prophet would want to be. It was not a temple. It was not a sacred mountain. It was a valley full of bones, thousands, no name, no identity, no life, bones dried out by time, by abandonment, by judgment. There, where death seemed definitive, God asked the most unlikely question ever heard. Son of man, can these bones live again? Silence, voltage, doubt. The question wasn't just about the bones, it was about faith, about vision, about the power that still lives even when everything has died. Ezekiel reverently responded, Lord, you know. And it was then that God gave the command that changes everything. Prophesy over these bones. Tell them, dry bones, hear the word of the Lord. And at that moment, the impossible began to happen. Bones began to move, coming together one by one, forming skeletons, tendons, muscles, skin. Everything came back together, but there was still no life. They were standing, but empty. And God then gave the second command, prophesy to the Spirit. Come from the four winds, O breath, and breathe on these dead, that they may live. And the breath came, the Spirit descended, and that valley of death turned into an army, alive, prepared, invisible to the eyes of the world, but invincible on the spiritual plane. This vision is God's answer to anyone who is on the verge of giving up. For those who look around and only see ruins, decay, bones of forgotten dreams, fragmented families, erased faith, Ezekiel's forbidden prophecy is now fulfilling, not only in judgment, but also in promise. Because God is a judge, but he is also a restorer. He is fire, but he is also the breath of life. He allows the fall, but prepares the resurrection. Today, there are many valleys before us, emotional valleys, spiritual valleys, people walking as if they were alive, but inside they already consider themselves dead, dry bones that still hold memories but have forgotten how to breathe. And in this scenario, God still asks, do you believe you can live again? The answer is not in human strength. It is in the prophetic voice that still rises. It is in the spirit that still blows. It's in the promise that still pulses, even under the ashes. And maybe all God is waiting for is for you to prophesy. May you arise in the midst of the valley and declare life. Where there is death, faith where there is despair, hope where there is darkness, because the voice that brings life is still available to those who believe. And this army of the end will not be made up of the great, the famous, the untouchables, but for those who were restored in the valley, those who survived the loss but did not lose their spirit, those who walked among the rubble but kept their faith burning like an ember on a windy day. This is the time to let go of the mourning and listen to the breath, the time to believe again that yes, dry bones can revive, that the sleeping church can awaken, that distant children can return, that glory can return. But only those who don't give up now will live this promise. Because the valley is not the end, it's the beginning. It is the womb where God forms the warriors of tomorrow. It is there among bones and dust that he begins to raise the invisible army, which will be light on the last day. Are you part of this? So get up, because the breath is already coming and the last battle is about to begin. The final warning. What's to come changes everything. Everything you have heard so far. The visions, the signs, the warnings, the invisible mark, the departing glory and the reviving valley was not just history. It wasn't just a symbol. It was preparation. It was the echo of something much bigger. Because Ezekiel didn't just write for his generation. He wrote for the final days, to the exact moment when everything would begin to repeat itself and be fulfilled. And that moment arrived. Ezekiel's forbidden prophecy is now fulfilling. And if you haven't realized this by now, maybe this is your last warning. The signs are everywhere, not hidden, but open. Wars multiply, rumors of destruction sound with each new day. Earthquakes increase in frequency and intensity. Morality is reversing. The sacred is being ridiculed. Voices that warn are silenced, while those that distort the truth are amplified. Everything Ezekiel saw in his visions, all the cycles of fall and judgment, are repeating themselves on a global scale. But this time, it's not just about one city, it's about humanity. There is a new kind of idolatry brewing, no longer made of statues or stone images, but of algorithms, artificial intelligence, the cult of technology. A new kind of worship begins to emerge, silent, seductive, disguised as progress. The same spirit of rebellion that dominated Jerusalem now runs through the invisible wires of the internet, the control systems, the screens that capture minds. The difference? Before, the rebellion was local. Now, it's global. And in this scenario, one question echoes more strongly than ever. Which side will you be on? Because, as was the case with Ezekiel, the time for neutrality is over. God is separating, sealing, calling. And only those with spiritual discernment will be able to remain standing when the next stage begins. Make no mistake, the confrontation is coming. A confrontation between light and darkness, truth and deception. And it won't be a war with guns. It will be a war for minds, hearts, and souls. What Ezekiel saw in the heavens was not just a chariot of fire. It was a statement, a triumphal entry of the kingdom that would come to judge all nations. He saw the King, the same one who will rise at the end of all things. The glory that left will return. But first, she will come with a sword, fairly, with purifying fire. Are you ready for this? Many hope for better days, by human promises. But those who understand the times know there will be no true peace before the last battle. The return of glory will be preceded by darkness like never before, deception like never preached, tribulation like never before experienced, but also by a move of God like never before. The time is now. The clock didn't stop. You are not here by chance. This message has reached you because there is still time. Time to position yourself. Heart-wrenching to disconnect from the system and reconnect with the sky. The army of dry bones is already standing. The brand is already being placed. The separation has already begun. In the next video, we'll dive into the most shocking vision of all, the one that Ezekiel saw in the heavens, and that changed everything. What was just prophecy is becoming reality. And only those who have eyes to see will see. Only those who have ears to hear will understand. Get ready, because what's coming will change everything. And time is running out. And if you feel like something profound is happening in the spiritual world and you want to be prepared, then don't let it pass you by. Hit the like button right now. It shows that you're awake, that you're listening. And if you are not yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe now. Here, we go beyond the surface. We bring revelations, warnings, truths that few have the courage to expose. Turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next videos, because what comes next will surprise you. Share this video with someone who needs to awaken, someone who may be living in the valley without knowing that God still wants to breathe life. You are part of this army, and your decision could change everything. See you in the next video. May God bless you, and may His glory find space in your heart before it's too late.